200-year-old stone barn renovation, part 1. Let's do this. Hi and welcome to today's video. As I promised, I'm going to do a video which is a summary of the social media posts which I've done over the last week, introducing everybody to the barn conversion. We are 8 years into the conversion and we still aren't yet finished, but it's just a short summary. There will be other parts to this video. This is certainly part 1 of many, but it's a short snapshot into showing what we've been up to so far. So it will cover our first major milestone, which was replacing the entire roof of the barn, getting a floor laid because the floor was originally compacted cow poop. Then it was getting doors and windows installed. Then it was installing a staircase so we could get upstairs, and then installing a floor upstairs. And then just little miscellaneous bits until I do part 2 of the video. So let's get cracking. So here we have the roof, the first section. This photo was taken the day that we took that fateful walk and we found the barn. We were staying at friends of ours a couple of kilometers away. I'd come to France to meet John's mum. She'd been living here for a good 15-20 years by then. And I'd come here, or he'd brought me here to meet her. And we stayed at some friends of theirs around the corner. And one afternoon we took a walk and we just went down this old dirt track. And as you can see, it was a beautiful sunny day. And we just, I can still remember it. The roof kind of loomed up out of all the overgrown grass and bushes. It's very, you know, it has no immediate neighbors. It's very isolated, but it was just so beautiful. And I remember we arrived at the kind of the top of the driveway, well, what looked like the driveway. It was very, very overgrown, and there was this little piece of blue string across. And John said, "Oh, let's go in and take a look." And I said, we can't, there's a piece of blue string." And literally he just stepped over the string, and you know, and that was it. So yeah, so we went in. The grounds were so overgrown. So yeah, some of these photos are a bit small because I've taken them off Facebook. This is the top field. So as you come down the driveway, there's 2 fields, a back garden and a small woodland. This is what we call the top field. And you can see it's very overgrown. When we walked around, there were weeds and grasses sort of up to our waist. It was really, really very overgrown. That is where we ended up having the caravan. You'll see later where we had the caravan, but it's literally just sort of over here somewhere where we had the caravan. But it's just to give you some idea about how overgrown it was. I mean, it's just so beautiful. Every time we look at these photos, and there's just something about it, the stonework, the wide openings, the trees, there are oak trees, there are elm trees, there's ash trees all over, and it just feels like such a magical place. It has a little stream down the back that runs through, and it's incredible. So we had a sort of a walk around outside, and then we ventured inside because obviously we didn't know the condition of anything inside, so we didn't know if it was safe, but you can see the stonework was in excellent condition. So we went inside. And that's when we discovered, you can see here, it still has a compacted cow poop floor because it was a barn, but it still has the original manger, and there was all hay tucked behind. And when we removed that, we've used it. In fact, I don't know if you can see just behind. Oh, no, you can't. Just here. That's a bit of the manger from the barn. it's really beautiful. There's various places throughout that we've decided to use it. Treasures like that you can't get rid of. This was upstairs, which is now our main bedroom, and you'll see from the photographs, whenever you see this pigeonnier sort of style opening at the end, that's where the main ensuite bathroom is going to be. In this area here is now our bedroom. Incredibly, our bed sort of sits there now. It's just amazing to see. And you can see there was no boarding or insulation or membrane or anything in the roof. It was literally just the tiles and the battens. And upstairs, you can't see it too clearly here, but there was lots of bits of string hanging from all the rafters all the way on the upstairs. And we discovered later that's because they used to dry tobacco, because it's where they used to grow tobacco, and they used to dry it hang it off the ceilings. So here's another picture. So this is the other wing. So you'll have seen from the original photo that the barn is an L shape. And upstairs, the one end is my office, this room that I'm in now, and the other wing is our main ensuite bedroom. So this is looking directly from where the stairs are now, right through John's office and to my office. So my office is this, you can see here where there's part of the A-frame here. It's this area towards the end. And I don't know if you can see here, there's a hole in the floor, and there was a broken barn door on the ground floor, and we propped it up against the wall and we climbed up to come upstairs so that we can take the photo. Oh, you can see the tobacco strings here. So we climbed up that barn door, and so we could get upstairs to take photos, and we had to be very, very careful where we stood upstairs because we didn't really know the condition of any of the beams and everything. So that's now in my office, looking back towards where the stairs are. So is it? No, sorry, that's the ensuite bathroom looking towards where the stairs are and where John's office are. So you're from the one end looking towards where the L joins in the middle. It's just the beams and the roof were so beautiful, just to see all that wood, and it was just beautiful. From what we could see, there were 2 beams that were rotted through and the rest were all okay. Incredible. We were incredibly lucky. It could have been a lot worse. So this is the photograph showing, this is me standing there, how high all the weeds and the brambles and nettles, and I had to keep my arms in like this because there were nettles so high, and whew, those things sting. So yeah, I remember we walked around and it was just, oh, it was so exciting. That is the cottage in the background. So we have a cottage as well. There's an L-shaped barn. There's a what we called the pig shed, so it joined on. Then there's the double-story workshop, which is this building you can see in this photo. And then beyond that, there's the cottage and a little building just to the right of it. And just directly behind me here is a well. So that's it has water, not drinkable water, but renovation quality water. So we walked around and we fell in love with this place, and we went back to where we were staying, and we had some pen and paper, and I remember we drew all the plans. You know, if we owned such an incredible building, where would we put the bedrooms? Where would we put the kitchen? And, you know, we'd have to put that there and we'd have to put that there. And we sat for hours planning what the layout would look like. Bizarrely, that hasn't changed at all. But this was in 2015, and bearing in mind it's 2025 now, so it's incredible. And the next 6 to 8 months was really just a series of, well, let's see what the next step is and see if we could manage that. Oh yeah, that worked out okay. All right, well, let's see if we manage the next step. Oh, we'll have to do that. Let's see if we can do that. Oh, okay, we've managed that. Let's see what the next step is. And there was just this whole series of little steps And then all of a sudden, we were there, and John flew out that December to pre-sign all the contracts. And then I flew out with him the following April. And it was such a nerve-wracking experience because here in France, a person, when they sell the property, if they have children, they have to get permission from the children to sell the property because that is the children's inheritance. And if the children don't agree, that property cannot be sold. And that's why there's so many empty buildings around the French countryside. So the lady that was selling, or she wasn't selling, bearing in mind, she wasn't selling. Just these two random strangers out of nowhere approached her and asked her if she'd be interested in selling her barn. Anyway, that's another story. She had 4 children, and incredibly, luckily, they all lived here in France, because apparently you can run into massive problems if they live internationally, because they all have to be there for the signing. So on the day for the signing, we literally met her and her 4 children. And I remember being in the notaire's office. We took along a friend of ours who obviously could speak French, because we couldn't speak French. The notaire knew enough English to obviously explain what was happening. And it was a 46-page contract. French love their paperwork. And we had to sign or initial every single page. So the notaire would explain what the page entailed, and then she'd hand it to John. John would initial it. He'd hand it to me. I would initial it. I'd hand it to child 1. They would initial it. Child 2, they'd initial it. Child 3, they'd initial it. Child 4, they'd initial it. Owner, she'd initial it. And then it'd go back to the notaire. It was a long process. And when we were done, I remember we walked straight across the road with our friend and went straight into a barn, had a stiff drink. And it was like, oh crap, we've bought a barn. Or a cow shed, as my brother lovingly calls it. So this photo here is us the day that we signed, and those are the documents we are holding there. And you can tell the grass has been cut since. But what a day that was. And we put our house on the market. John sold his lovely car. We packed everything up, and it just incredible. So this is the aerial view of the land so that you can see. So here you can see the L-shaped barn. This bit here is what we call the pig sheds. This bit here is the workshop, and this bit here is the cottage. So this is a little woodland here. This is the top field. This is the bottom field. This is obviously the road. And just along here, just in between these trees, is where the stream runs. So this photo, oopsie, in France, all the land has numbers associated with it. So this package, if you like, includes 4 plots of land. So you can see here, so we've got 1037, 38, 39, and 340. So 340, 1037, 1038, 39, and 40. So the top field is plot land 1040. So that's how it works. So there's four plots. Now, interestingly, I have a photograph of a very, very old map of this particular plot of land. And bearing in mind, here is the L shape of the barn. Then there's the workshop. Then there's the cottage. I want you to see this old map. I'll make it bigger so that you can see it. So look at the difference. The barn isn't an L shape. It's just one size. And we discovered this when we were renovating. My office and what is the living room downstairs, and John's office and the living room downstairs, was the original barn. And we know that because the beams were much older. the beams in the other part of the L shape were machine cut because they're uniform. These beams still had bark on them. They still had bark on them and they're very rough cut. But we also discovered when we dug out the floor, we actually found the footings for the end of this building. Incredibly, they were as neat as anything, just this row of rock underneath. Amazing. And then when we did some research, we found that actually the barn used to just be this original bit, and then later they built the bit that comes out here to make the L shape. Interestingly, there's a little building here which is no longer there. So it's a bit difficult. We've got rock walls throughout the property, and this is in the hedgerow, in amongst all the wall rock. So it's there. I'm sure it is there, but we haven't had a chance to excavate it yet. Excuse me. So when we eventually arrived, well, actually no, this was slightly before we arrived, because when we bought it, this is how it looked, and the grass had been cut and trimmed and it looked very neat. But when we arrived back, which was the July of 2016, the grass was so long. So here's a picture of John actually cutting the grass. We had to use a brush cutter rather than a mower, because as you can see, it wasn't grass. It was weeds and brambles and, branches and really, really tough stuff. And we had to create space in the top field to have a place for our caravan. So we bought a small two-berth caravan to live in while we were doing the renovation. And we lived in that for 3.5 years, incredibly. So this is the space where the caravan is going to be stored, secured for our time. So this is John cutting the lawn, and the same spot, there's the caravan. As you can see from the amount of green mold on the front of this caravan, this is a much later shot, but basically that is what we lived in for 3.5 years. It was a caravan with an awning, as you can see, and inside the awning we laid an OSB floor, which we covered with the ground sheet of the caravan. And inside this awning was a massive kitchen table. Our fridge, we got through 3 fridges in our 3.5 years, because fridges aren't meant to be stored outside. Well, maybe in garages and outside sheds, but not in an awning. 2 wooden cabinets with food in and what have you, and a plastic table where so John used to wash up outside. So okay, so let's just go back a step. So when we arrived, we had no electricity, and we had there was electricity onto the edge of the property, but that was nigh on 70 meters away from the house. There was water the other side on the edge of the property, but that was probably also 70 meters away from where we were in the caravan. So we had a hose pipe that ran from the back of the house up around and under some roof tiles to protect it, into the caravan, up around the back of a little wooden stand that John created, and into a tap so that he could run water. And he created a little stand where we had like a little plastic tub so that we could wash dishes. And that used to happen in the awning. So bearing in mind we had no drainage facilities, we had no septic tank, so we had no toilet. So no electricity for 1 month and no toilet for 2 months. Yes. So right, let's just move on a bit. So here's another picture. That was the top field before we cut it. That's standing at the house looking down the top field. After we cut it, that's what it looked like. Here you can see our little caravan. We've laid some paving slabs because it would get quite muddy and you know, when it rained and stuff. So at least we were able to make our way across. Yeah, when I look back at it now, I can't quite believe we lived for 3.5 years in that caravan. It was literally a 2-berth caravan. It was so tiny, and we used to have to sort of get the bed set up, make up the bed, sleep in the bed, and then in the morning everything would have to be put away, rolled up, so that we could sit on the seats and have our lunch. In the winters, the first winter was frightfully cold, and there was frost on the inside of the windows, and that's when we decided to cover the caravan with insulation sheets and insulation plastic to try and keep some of the heat inside. We had reflective bubble wrap sort of around the base of the caravan so that the cold air wouldn't go under the caravan. We tried so much. We put carpet on the floor, you know, multiple layers of carpet on the floor, just to try and keep it warm. And we had a little heater, which in the wintertime we used to have to put on frost protection to stop the temperature from going below 5 degrees. And it would come on, and we'd be there with our hats and our gloves under blankets and surrounded by cats. And yeah, incredible. So just a few befores and afters so that you can see. So this was the driveway. Here's the piece of blue string. This was after it had been cut, mind you. So the grass here is at least is flat. You can walk down and you can see where the drive is. But when we first arrived, you couldn't see where the drive was. It was so overgrown. But halfway through doing the roof, which you'll see in the next section, so that's the same shot. So you can see how different it looks. The cottage round the back, you can see, was very, very overgrown. And that's after. So just very quickly, I'm going to play a little video, because when we had the septic tank put in, after those 2 months of digging a hole in the garden, yes, digging a hole in the garden, we have a lot of bedrock around us, and we had to have somebody come in with a big digger with a pecker on the end to break up that bedrock so that we could get the electricity cables safely and deep enough. They have to be a certain depth. And so we had to get someone to come around and do that. So let me just turn on the desktop audio. Right, here we go. The sound does it no justice. It was really so loud. Oh, this is just a view of the back garden when we'd cut all the grass. And we had a compost heap, as you can see. That's actually almost empty, or perhaps we were still filling it. There was so much in the garden to clear away. I think we spent the first 6 months clearing the garden, clearing all the edges to make them look neater, so that there wasn't so much, you know, undergrowth that you couldn't see what creatures were hiding, were lurking. Right, I think that is that. So that's the intro. The next bit is all about getting the roof done. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and this section is all about replacing the roof. So I've started with a photograph from the inside so that I can explain what all the bits of the roof are. So the massive beams, these big ones here, these are big supporting beams, and generally they connect with beams that go into, oh, can you actually see my cursor there? There we go. So these big ones here, you can tell that they're bigger than the other ones. They are generally connected to other beams which go into the wall. Those are called the A-frame beams. You don't mess with those babies. Those are holding the house up. The vertical ones that are all attached are roof rafters. So they're just your bog standard beams. They're just your roof rafters. The ones that go across horizontally are called the purlins. Then the little skinny ones that go in between the rafters, those are the battens. They sit on top of the rafters, and those are what the tiles hook onto. So literally we are seeing the underside of the tiles here. So we needed to take everything off the roof because we wanted to waterproof the roof. We wanted to replace the battens because a lot of these battens were starting to rot. It's only thin wood. We wanted to replace all the battens. We wanted to board it. We wanted to put membrane on it, the new battens, and then all the tiles. Now, we didn't have money to put all new tiles on the roof, so we had to remove all the tiles. John estimates there were roughly 8,000 tiles. Remove them all, give them each a once over, have a quick look to see whether they're frostbitten. A lot of them had so much frost damage they had to be thrown away. If they were able to be used again, we cleaned that individual tile and put it in a pile, and we took it back up onto the roof again. It was a painstaking process. It took us 14 months. We had to hire the scaffolding to climb up there, but everything else we did manually. We didn't have tile lifts. We didn't have any sort of mechanical help. We just had us. So here you can see the condition of the roof, and you can see that actually the tiles, a lot of the tiles, certainly on this part of the building, were very badly damaged. You can see they're just frost damaged. It was very exciting climbing up that scaffolding. I was very, very nervous the first time. But it was fun. Once we got the hang of it, it was fun. Here's the driveway in the front of the property. Such lovely views. We always said when we finished the roof that we'd miss the views because you could see so far. I think you see the caravan in this shot as well. Yay, there it is. A little home from home. So there's John standing proud, chomping at the bit to get started, but you can really see the condition of the tiles. So look at them, they're all broken and full of moss, and yeah, really bad. This was day one. I believe it was the 16th of December 2016, and as you can see, we've taken some of the tiles off and we've stacked them here on the scaffolding. It was freezing cold. I remember that first winter, there were days where we had to grit the top of the scaffolding because it was just so cold, and it was slippery up there. So we had to take all the tiles off and we'd stack them here on the scaffolding, as many as we could. The next video will show you what we did when we didn't have any room on the scaffolding. And we had to do a section at a time and take all the tiles off so that we could expose the battens. And then we would cut the battens. and then we'd literally lift the beam off because, believe it or not, they are just resting there. They are wedged in at the bottom here using a wall plate. So there's a piece of wood that runs along the top of the wall that has notches in it, and the rafters sit in those notches, and then they just rest on that center beam along the ridge. They just rest. So we lift the beam off, put it on the scaffolding, we take all the bits of batten off, we'd clean the beam on all four sides, we'd paint it with insecticide, and then we'd put it back up again to each of those rafters. So here you'll see the tile slide. We built it to get the tiles down quickly. How fun is that? And you can see John at the bottom stacking them. Some he looks, some he puts into one side because they're broken ones, and some he puts in that pile, which are the good piles. We eventually stopped using that because, as you can see, there's a massive kind of hole that happened in the ground at the base of the slide, and eventually what we ended up doing is just putting 4 or 5 tiles in a bucket attached to a piece of rope, and we would lower it over the edge of the scaffolding, empty it out, and then bring the rope back up again. So this was cleaning tiles, so you had to wear a full face mask because the amount of tile dust and crud that came off the tiles was insane, and it would get in your eyes and in your ears, up your nose, and everywhere else. It was really, really messy work, and this was summer, and it was very, very hot. We are in the shade, but oh my goodness, and I can just remember being so dirty, and oh, the grit would be everywhere. And but we had a little system going. John would be this side, and he would have the machine that would clean the tiles, and I would literally be the conveyor belt. I would just put them 2 in front of him, move that one down, get the next one up, move that one over, get the next one up, put that one down, and it would just be continuous, continuous, continuous. And we would just do sections at a time until we had those tiles clean, and then we'd load them in the bucket, and then we'd pull them back up to the top of the scaffolding, and then we'd put them back on the roof. So here you go, is another shot of just so that you can see, obviously this area here is completed. So we worked our way around the roof. Here the battens have been cut so that those beams will just come out. And these beams, obviously they have no battens on them. You can see here how they're stuck in their little notches, and you can see the wall plate that runs along the top of the wall. You can also see how rough they are. I mean, they just, some of these were literally just tree trunks. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. We also removed all the stones. You can see there's 3 layers of stones on the top of the wall. We removed them all, cleaned them all up. Excuse me, used a vacuum cleaner, which, believe it or not, just died the other day. That thing has worked so hard. Cleaned all the dirt and the moss and the dead creatures. And then we secured it all and mortared it all so that it was all nice and solid. This is one of my favorite photos, standing on the ground floor, the front of the barn, and looking up through what is now that office window out to the back of the building out there, because it had all the tiles off, and you can see literally right through the building. I think it's fabulous. You can see right out the other side. Such a great shot. This one is just showing how we started when the tiles were clean, when we'd hauled them back up again using our bucket method, bucket and rope method. We would actually stack the tiles on the roof like that, so that once they were all up, then we could start tiling. You can see here the membrane's on and the battens are on, and we've done what's called double battening. So there's a vertical batten first, and then a horizontal batten. And that means if any water does get in, it simply runs down in between those two vertical battens and out the bottom. If you didn't have the vertical battens, the water would run and it would hit that first horizontal batten, and then you run the risk of those top few always having water damage. And we don't want to be on this roof in our lifetime again. So we did everything to make sure we wouldn't have to go up there again. So another question we often got asked was, when we boarded the roof, we used massive, I think it was 2 meters by something or other. You'll see on the next picture, massive boards. And people would say, well, how'd you get the boards up there? Do you have a lift? We said, no, we don't have a lift. We have a ladder. We have a ladder. So basically what would happen is I would stand at the bottom like this with the board, and I would hold it like that. Obviously this photo's posed to show, but John would be at the top of the ladder and he would grab the top of the board to steady it, and then I would step on the bottom rung, and then John would grab more, and then I'd step on the next rung and John would grab more, and literally we would ease the board up like that. There are 58 boards on this roof. It's easier, it was easier when it was only this high. On the back of the house, it was probably 1.5 times its height. It was a lot higher. So that was a lot more difficult. I ate a lot of chocolate. I ate a lot of chocolate during the roof renovation. So that there is the front of the house. You can just see on the side here, we're still busy, but the front of the house, the roof is finished. We had to redo the valley. The valley had old like tin plate there before, and before we left the UK, John ordered church grade lead, which weighs a ton, my God. And we together we created that valley so that it would be nicer and easier and things could flow. And we've since installed a gutter, and in the L shape of the barn under the floor, we didn't realize until we started digging, there's actually a channel that's dug to allow for drainage. So we just put the gutter down the center there and it drained underneath the house. I don't know if I can zoom. Oh, I can. Don't know if you can see. There's a John's always decorative when he can be. Decorative and creative. And he's actually cut an oak leaf out of a spare bit of lead, and he stuck it on the top of the valley. He's so good that way. So good. So when we got round to the side of the house, we could look back through, and this side here is boarded. That's the front of the house that we've completed. But this area here is the back of the house, which we haven't yet completed. But you can really see the structure of the roof in this photo. You can see all the A-frames. Look at them all going down into the wall. Absolutely incredible. The structure is amazing. And you'll see when we do the section on when we installed the upstairs, this is what we were dealing with. This was the upstairs floor. Anyway, we'll come to that in a bit. So remember I said how much higher the back wall was compared to the front, because the property does sit on a slope. So yes, this is John showing how much higher. Can you imagine getting those OSB boards up these? Oh, it was hard. And we worked through another winter. So we had 2 winters on the roof. So I think if you remember, I said we started in December 2016. This is December 2017, and we are almost finished. Almost finished. The tiles on this back part of the roof were a different style to the front of the roof. So doing this join here was quite tricky, because it was the old tiles meeting these kind of new tiles. It was a challenge, but we got there. So yeah. And this is the last section. You can see the battens are on. We've boarded, we've membraned, the batten's on, and it's ready for tiling. I have got a video somewhere, and I've slipped up because I was going to say I haven't included it today. I think I'm going to go find it. I'll pop it in the video. Stay tuned. Okay, I went and found it. I had a video that I did when we had the extremely emotional moment of laying the last tile. And I'm feeling emotional now because I've just watched the video as I downloaded it, ready to put in this video. But if you imagine, we'd been doing this for 14 months and we'd done 2 winters. We'd been up and down that scaffolding. We'd cleaned all the tiles. We'd laid all the boards. We were absolutely shattered. But the satisfaction of laying that last tile together was just immense. The last thing that we had to do after that to declare the roof done was to put the very last ridge tile on the top. But I'll talk more about that in a second. So here is the video of us laying the last tile. So this is it. There is one more tile left to go on the roof, and we're going to put it on together. Okay, ready? Okay, ready? And there it goes. Last tile. I can't do it while I'm recording. Is that it? Yep. That's it.
Just the gable end now.
Well done. That has taken us a year and 2 months. Right, I'm going to stop recording now because John's going to do a happy dance and I'm going to bawl my eyes out. Right, so that was laying the last roof tile. What we then did, I think we had to wait roughly a month because we just had endless rain. We invited all our friends around and we had, you know, champagne in the garden, and we went up the scaffolding, and under the watchful eye of the scaffolding man who'd helped us, you know, erect the scaffolding. He knew a lot about roofs. He is a roofer. So he gave us a lot of advice on the way, and under his watchful eye, and all our friends, I don't know why I'm getting so emotional now. we laid the last ridge tile on the top. Now I don't have an actual video of that, but I have the photo where we climbed up, and I'm holding up that last tile to say that's it. And you can see right at the top of the roof there, it's just waiting for that last tile. John has already done all the wood and the sealing the end tiles so that that's all finished. But it was that last ridge tile, and we plonked it on. You know, John's digging in a bucket now, getting some mortar. We plonked it on, and underneath the tiles we placed some crystals. I think there's clear quartz and some amethyst. And then, as is traditional in this area, and I think with many traditional roofing jobs, you have a roof topping ceremony. So that's what this was. And what you do is you place an oak branch somewhere in that roof. And we had a little area at the top of the roof, and we had a little piece of oak which we pulled down through that little hole, and that was it. We declared the roof done. We declared the roof done. So yeah, incredible. I just wanted to end with one of my favorite photos. This was when we first started the roof. But to actually sit on the ridge of a massive barn like this is quite something. And it just, for me, shows the determination and the courage that we both had to do something like that. It was no easy task. And I've done a lot of incredible things in my life, you know, dived with sharks, jumped off mountains, the whole toot. But this was one of my greatest achievements. And we will always talk about it with great fondness and happy memories. Stay tuned. I'm going to go grab a tissue. Okay, so the next section is about us getting our floor. Now, I've put this picture back. You'll remember it from one of the first shots to remind you that the floor was compacted cow poop, and we had to dig it out from both wings, and we put it in a big pile in the front of our garden, at the bottom of the driveway, and we grew potatoes in it, and they were fabulous. They were fabulous because, well, it was well rotted. Well, you know. So we had to dig it all out. It had to be down to a certain depth, and we then had to lay sand. So we had a massive delivery of sand delivered. So to wheelbarrow that in from where it was dumped on the driveway down to the barn. It had to have a layer of sand, and then it had a layer of what we call castine here, but it's a very kind of fine white gravel. And then on top of that had to be damp-proof membrane, and then on top of that it had to be really, really thick insulation pads. And then on top of that, it had to be the underfloor heating pipes. And our first major expense, we were going to do it ourselves, but when John realized how big the area was, he said laying that concrete floor ourselves is not going to work because it's going to set quicker than we're able to do it. And we needed it to be absolutely flat because we're tiled throughout downstairs, and thank goodness for that. So that's a reminder of what it looked like before. So here you can see we had to dig out. This is, you know, one of the lintels on the front of the house. This is the kitchen patio doors now. So you can see, you know, how much deeper the stone goes than the ground level outside. And that's just as well, because if the barn was just sitting on top of the ground, we would have had serious issues. We would have had to do a whole lot of work to tie that barn in with the ground. But the barn's actually dug into the ground, and in places it's built directly onto the bedrock. So here you can see this bit's dug out. This here is the lintel in the previous photo. This bit's dug out, and this bit's had the sand and the cast. Oh, I think I got it the wrong way around. I think it's first the gravel and then the sand. Yeah, because the sand will make it level. So, oops. And this, from here, looking down that view, is pretty much this view. So this door here is this door here. So already you can see there's, at the back here, this wooden box, which is OSB board. And when we got our septic tank installed, the first thing that John did was install a toilet. So there's a toilet in there. So that was our toilet block for years before we actually moved into the house. So we'd live in the caravan, and then you wake up in the middle of the night when you needed to pee, and you'd have to run through the garden and then come in here and use the loo and then run back again to the caravan. But that was luxury compared to digging a hole in the garden. And you can see here we've had, you know, the electricity box is now installed. We've got our washing machine and tumble dryer. So yeah, it's very cool. So here you can see more. So that's the same. We're standing in the same doorway again. You can see there's the toilet block at the back, but now the castine is going down. So here you can see this is now in the other room. we had to point the walls because they're not pointed. There are gaps through these walls where you can see daylight. And in fact, these walls were only pointed last year. My office is directly above here. So we had to point the walls up to this height. This blue plastic is the damp-proof membrane, and each of these squares is a massive pad of insulation that have been taped together so that they form one nice big floor. Here is the underfloor heating pipes going down. Oh, they were a nightmare. You have this one roll, you can see here, one roll of pipe, and it wants to coil in a certain way on its own, and you want it to lay in another way. And it was so frustrating because you wanted to, well, I did anyway, lose your temper and force it to do things. But like John explained to me, if you kink that pipe, you've ruined that pipe. You can't cut that bit out and join it, because you can't have a join underneath concrete because you can't risk it going wrong. So, it was so frustrating having to turn that coil over, and it would want to, and you daren't let the damn thing go because it would just go boing, and then the whole thing would be unraveled. So, it was a nightmare. So we had to lay those out, and then you can see John, he's put all polystyrene, because this house moves. I know that sounds weird, but it moves. That's why you can only use lime mortar when you're pointing between the stones, because you have to allow for that movement. You can't put concrete. It's a living, breathing house. So on the edge here, John's had to put, where the damp-proof membrane goes up against the stone, he's had to put little strips of polystyrene so that when they pour the concrete, it sits against that so that it's got a chance to move. I know that sounds strange. It's only a little bit, but it has to be allowed that space to move. And John, if you've been following us a while, I rave about him and his scientific mind all the time, but he calculated the volume. You remember those math lessons from school? He calculated the volume of liquid that they would require to fill. This is just the kitchen. There was the kitchen, the pantry utility room, the library area, and the living room. And he was like a tiny bit out, but there was enough. You know what I mean? It was just incredible. I remember him just being so proud when they calculated and they came back with a figure. He was like, yep, look, I'm also like within is a minimal amount, negligible. So on the day, 2 gentlemen arrived in a van and they went around with these little triangular doofers. They're lying on their side at the moment, but what they did is they stood those up and they put them at a certain height. Where the top bit comes out of the little feet, there's a little pad underneath, and they can adjust the height of that pad. So they make all the pads the same height, and when Matey Boy comes in with his pouring, he fills just to where it touches that pad, and that way they can ensure that it's level. So they arrived in their little van. They did all of this setting up, and then a big lorry came, and the lorry parked on the driveway, and then they connected the pipe. So I actually have a video of the guy pouring the concrete. And it's not concrete. It is concrete, but it was a very, very wet mix. You'll see. So here he is. Incredible. It was really incredible. It looked like a sludge, like a wet sludge, So this area here is the living room. This area at the top here is the living room. And there's quite a difference in height. Remember I said that the house is on a slope. we couldn't dig any deeper here because we met bedrock, and for us to dig out that bedrock in there would have meant equipment and goodness knows what else. John had to hire equipment just to dig down enough for us to get the height there, and there's still more than enough height, but that's why there's this step here. So this here is the living room, and as at now, January 2025, we are currently working in that room to get that room finished, so it is very exciting. So man 1 goes around with a hose and fills the area with the gunk, and man 2 stands by with a bucket so that man 1 can put the pipe in the bucket when they go over the borders so that they don't dribble. Fabulous. Then man 1 went round with his little plate and just wobbled it around a bit to make sure it was all nice and level and nice and neat. This in the background is where the stair, you can just see the ladder. This is where the stairs are. So the area that he's in now is what we call the library, and this is the living room. It took about, I think maybe 2 hours, not even 2 hours for them to do it. They were super, super polite. They were super, super clean. They washed down all their boots. They rinsed the grass off where the stuff had got on the grass. And then they saw the cats. And they said, you can't walk on it for 3 days. And we were like, yeah, we know. So we had to, you have visions of the cats running in, and either us having cat paw print marks or us waking up one morning and like Jabari being like, Mum, I can't move, I'm stuck in the mud. So we didn't have doors and windows then. So we had to find plastic and wood and all sorts of things. And this is our front door. So we had to prop things up against the openings to stop the cats from going inside so that we didn't have cats stuck in the concrete. I believe that was poured on a Thursday, and on the Saturday, I had a peek and took a quick video. So here, have a watch. It's incredible. Thursday afternoon this was poured, and it's now Saturday morning. It's absolutely rock solid. We aren't supposed to walk on it until tomorrow, so we're going to respect that. But oh my goodness, it's tempting. All these little bits here, they're coming back to polish off next week to smooth it out. How exciting is that? I just remember being so excited about it. So, and that's what it looked like. But I've got a video. So I'll play the video. Okay, are you ready? Let's go in and see the floor. We've already had a quick walk around. Let's take you for a tour. Okay, so first, pantry, utility room. And then kitchen, or kitchen diner. And listen. Okay, then you walk through the kitchen to the library area. And that area will be the stairs going upstairs. And then there will be a step up into the lounge, which we had to do because the ground was a different level there. Doesn't it look amazing? Let's go up here and then you can see the view back. Look at that. It looks amazing. It was just amazing. The difference. And then if you go back here, you can look back through to the kitchen area. Look how amazing that looks. Incredible. It just looks so different, and it sounds different as well. It sounds more, what did you say, a little flat, didn't you? It doesn't sound so echoey. So we walk from the kitchen here into the pantry utility room. And then we go front door. How good is that? Tell us what you think. Tell us what you think. So I don't know. When I'm listening back to it now, it's sounding a bit echoey, but I think that's the resonance from the sound on my speakers here. But the biggest thing for us was how different it sounded inside, because beforehand it was kind of like this open barn, and giving it a concrete floor just changed the sound. It just sounded so much flatter. And it was the first time it started to feel like a livable property rather than just being a barn. So super exciting. So next bit is building the staircase so we can get upstairs. Stay tuned. Oops, getting a bit ahead of myself. The next step is actually the doors and windows, not the stairs. So I've put this photo back. It's one of the original photos. You can see the roof's not done or anything, but I wanted you to see it again so that you could appreciate the size of the holes. And bearing in mind, we're just doing this building here. This building is, well, the little bit in between. Hang on, you can't see. There we go. We're just doing this building. This little building in between is what we call the pig shed. This is the workshop, and this in the background is the cottage. So we're only working with this building at the moment. Now, these holes, obviously being a barn, are massive. And we couldn't just go into a shop and look in their catalogue and say, we'll have one of those, two of those, three of those. All of these openings are bespoke. So we had to measure them, and we had to have windows and doors specifically made for those openings. Now, we have since put in an extra window here. This is my office here. This little window here is directly here. I don't know why I'm pointing because you can't see, but anyway. And we've put another little window in here. This opening here has become a window, not a door. And we will eventually have, here's the downstairs bathroom. Remember early on I spoke about the OSB board, the toilet block. So that's become the downstairs bathroom, which is here, the shower room. There will be a small window here. And this upstairs here will be the main ensuite bathroom, and there will be a small window here as well. And then on the back of the building, we're going to have a kitchen window downstairs. There's a massive door, patio doors up on just opposite this one here. We had to make those two openings. And then there's a landing window, and I think there's one other small one to go in. So there were quite a few. I think there were 14 in total. So we ordered them quite early in the journey, but then didn't install them for ages. And they stood on a pallet outside the front of the house for ages. But eventually the time came. So here we can see we're getting ready. So you can see obviously the floor, the floor's in. So we're getting ready to get the windows in. This is this window here. and we've got to take all the blue tape off, install the frames. And what we've discovered is really tricky attaching anything to these walls. It's not too bad with these windows because they have what's called decorative stone surrounding the openings. So it's flat stone. You can see these are massive flat pieces of stone. When John drills, he can drill directly into those stones. But when you're drilling into just a wall, it's really hit and miss whether you're going to hit rock or mortar in between, or a small rock that's going to give way, and it's quite difficult. So anyway, so there's the next picture. So we've had to prop the window frame up because over time this is now going to be built and filled in. For ages it was just very loose concrete blocks and bits of newspaper shoved into the openings to stop creatures and cold air coming in. But it was so cold, and I think it was just last year, 2024, when John actually filled those gaps, so built the walls with the insulation in. And just a couple of weeks ago, he did really, really nice windowsills. So there's the start, and there is the window. How exciting. It was so incredible to actually see a window in. We went for oak effect PVC. We did receive a lot of, not criticism, but people who said things like, it's an old stone barn, traditionally it should be oak. Yes, it should be, but oak windows require painting every few years. And remember what I said about the roof. We don't want to be going up on the roof and doing anything in our lifetime, and we certainly, I'm in my 50s, John's in his 60s. We do not want to be painting windows every few years, especially around the back. We'd have to get scaffolding in. No. So we've gone for oak effect PVC. And oak effect means that it's not smooth. It's actually slightly ridged, so it feels like wood. But it's PVC and it's double glazed. The crossbars, these ones here, are actually inside the glazing, so at least you can clean the windows as a whole and not have to clean little panels. So the windows were one thing. So you install the frame first, and then they have little drop hinges, and then you get the window that has the accompanying hinges, and then you just hook them on. I've made that sound really easy, but it's really not, because they have to match up and the frame has to be even and everything has to be adjusted. Otherwise it doesn't match up and it doesn't close, and you're taking it off and trying again and adjusting that one and taking it off. And they were relatively easy. What was seriously hard were the doors. So this door here is this door here. It's what we call the kitchen patio door, because this is the kitchen area. For starters, they are so heavy, I can't even begin to tell you how heavy they are. And it took all our strength. John is super, super strong, but it took all of our strength for me and him to hook these doors onto those hinges. It was just so heavy. Even heavier than this one was, oh, okay, I don't have a picture of the front door. I thought this was the front door. So that's actually the this door finished. Because there's a side panel, so this goes into our kitchen area. Yeah, the front door was even heavier because that's it's a much wider door with a solid glass pane underneath. You'll see it in one of the next photos. Yeah, let's have a look. So there you go. So you can see here, this door is they're much wider, so each panel was much heavier than these narrow panels here. Here was the pallet that the windows sat on for all those months. And here you can see this finished window. So the downstairs windows are done, and already the area is transformed. We've got the new roof on, and now we've got 2 doors and a window, and it's starting to feel like a house now. It's starting to look less and less like a barn. And here is all done. So you see now we've got the upstairs, our main bedroom done, my office window, the downstairs living room, the kitchen patio doors, and the front doors. You'll see we've got blue tape on the front doors because one of our cats ran into the glass. Now, obviously, they didn't hurt themselves because it was a short distance and they just kind of ran in and they didn't realize there was actually glass there. So we had to put the blue tape on there for a while to get them used to the fact that they couldn't go through it. And we've cleared away the scaffolding, the pallet that held the windows, and the area is starting to look a lot different, much more like a house. So upstairs, this is just to show you what a mess. We had to make holes. So this is in John's office upstairs. It also gives you an idea. Our walls are 70 centimeters thick. And you can't quite see it here, but generally the walls have a front and a back area, and the middle is generally either empty or just full of random rubble. There's nothing attaching that middle bit. And it's very, very tricky when you're trying to take stones out, to not expose those areas, because you've got to be very conscious of what rocks are connecting to what rocks and what can fall out if you take that one out, and if you move that one, that one's going to dislodge that one. It takes a lot of thought. So this is John creating the hole for his office window. And there is the window. He's done most of the window sills in all the rooms are made from the floorboards which we removed from the top floor, which you'll see in one of the next videos or in the next section of this video. And that's just one of my favorite pictures of John. This is when he was creating the hole for that little window there. So that's the small window that's in this photograph here. So that was the doors and the windows, and that took, it actually didn't take as long, and we've still got quite a lot to do. So the kitchen window downstairs is still not done because that's a massive opening which has to be created. The 2 bathroom windows have still to be done, the little windows. And there is a massive set of patio doors which go off the library out to the back garden. That is a massive hole, and it is downstairs, which means it has to be done very, very carefully because it's removing stones from underneath supporting beams which are holding up the upstairs. So after many, many years, we were going to do it ourselves, and we got a lot of advice and we researched a lot, and eventually decided that we would get somebody in to do it. And we have a very nice French man coming, actually not next February, March time, to come and put that hole in our wall. And he will probably take 4 or 5 days to do it, but he's an artisan, which means he's a qualified professional and his work is guaranteed. And I'm going to get some lovely videos of that, because that is going to be a massive hole, and that will make a phenomenal difference to downstairs, because downstairs the library area doesn't have any windows. It has the opening to the living room, but it doesn't have any windows, so it's going to be quite interesting to see the light going through. So I shall take videos of that. But now we're going to go on to the stairs. Okie dokie, welcome back. So now we're onto the stairs. So the stairs are at the back of one part of the L shapes. I've mentioned it a few times, and you've probably seen in some of the videos this ladder here sort of tied up to the beams. We used this ladder to climb up and down to get upstairs until we had these stairs built. We obviously couldn't do anything major up there because we didn't have proper stairs. So let's build a staircase. Excuse me. So the first thing that John did was lay the back wall using concrete blocks. And he did all the research to make sure that he understood at what angle the stairs needed to go up, how high the riser, so that's the height of the actual step, needed to be, and how wide the actual step needed to be so that it was comfortable to step on, and the height that you were stepping up onto was also comfortable. And we had to use those figures and spread them out over the length of our staircase to make sure that the entire staircase was a comfortable climb. So what we did was we have a landing here. So you start in the library, you step up 2 steps to the landing, and then you turn, and then you go up the steps. So we used the concrete blocks as a base to build that. So there you can see he's finished the back wall, if you like, of the steps. These pipes here that you can see going into the ground are the underfloor heating pipes, just in case you're wondering what that is. So this is the back wall of concrete blocks, and then here is the front wall of concrete blocks. So the middle bit's empty. So you can now start to see the steps. So obviously they have to be supervised and they have to pass the correct planning permission. So we had a visit from the chief supervisor, who often checks on our work. We have many photographs of him on roof beams and on the roof and all sorts of things. This is Jabari, in case you don't know and you haven't been following me for a while. This is Jabari. And Jabari is probably our most curious and mischievous cat. So here he is checking out the workload. So now we have lots of progress. We have the front wall almost built. We have a doorway created, and we have the rest of that front wall. So now inside here we have a cupboard under the stairs, because everybody has a cupboard under the stairs. John, being John and being creative, has now found a nice beam. Let me just tell you quickly, when we first arrived, there was a couple that lived in a nearby village who had redone their roof. So luckily they had enough money that they bought a property, and they decided to replace all the beams and put new ones in. Now, I cannot even begin to tell you how expensive that property was. So we bought for 700 euros, which was a bargain, all of the oak beams that came off their old roof. And we have a massive pile, and we still have a massive pile, we have been using them, of oak beams. And what we do is we go around the house, and all the openings that we've created ourselves to put windows in, we've used these oak beams as lintels. So we'll clean them up, we'll treat them, we'll trim them, and then we'll lay them and use them as lintels. So we've used them as supporting beams around the house. We use them for decorative beams. And here is another one that's being used as a decorative beam, because ultimately, and this only happened in the last 2 months, we had actually a door put in here, and the rest of this wall was built, complete with a little Tudor style window, which means now we can close the upstairs off from the downstairs, which is important for a fire safety precaution, and also to stop muddy, wet cats from jumping on your bed. So next step was creating the step at the bottom. So remember I said you step up 2 steps. So this is obviously the lounge. No, it's not. It's the library floor. You're going to step onto this level here, and then onto this level here, and then turn and then walk up the stairs. Now it's made from concrete blocks, but in order to make it blend into the stone house, John has faced the front of it with stone. And also, it's not in this, it's in another photo. Okay, don't worry, I'll come back to that one. Okay, so this is, oh, it's just another shot of the showing the wall that's been created. Okay, so you've pretty much seen this. So now this is standing on the top floor looking down the ladder. You can see this is the ladder still. Looking down at where the stairs are going to be. So it's quite exciting because it's starting to feel like it's an actual staircase and not just a ladder that's chained to the top floor. So there you go. So now he's put planks in. So these planks again are all planks that we've reclaimed from the top floor here. I'll talk more about the top floor in one of the next sections. I think it might be the next one. So we took the planks down, we sanded them, we treated them, and we've put them here. We haven't varnished them or anything because obviously we're still renovating and we're up and down that stairs like crazy. So they're going to be well worn by the time they get varnished anyway. But you can see how nice it's looking now. So you kind of walk down here, turn, and then you walk down into the library. And that's from the top looking down. So exciting, being able to walk up proper stairs and not climb up a ladder. You know, going up the ladder is fine, but coming down the ladder was always a bit precarious, and you had to always make sure you were hanging on and 3 points of contact and all of that, you know. And having stairs was just fabulous. So there they are. He's laid these ones on the bottom now. And he's cut them nicely with a nice curve so that they look nice and smart. He's curved this right here. Yeah, it really made such a difference. And that's what I wanted to show you. What we ultimately did here, I think it's here somewhere, or might even be here. We, because we love crystals and we have a lot of crystals, this is a clear quartz cluster, and we've actually cemented that into the stone effect area of that step. Everywhere we have crystals in the walls and hidden behind all sorts of things. So I'm not quite sure why that photo's there. That one looks way out of place. I've obviously got the order slightly wrong, but you get the gist. So now you know that was our stairs, and now that we've got stairs, we can install the top floor. So stay tuned for the next section. And welcome back. So this section is about installing the actual top floor in the barn. So this photo is, you'll recognize the pigeonniere at the end. And if you remember earlier, I said that the pigeonniere is the upstairs where the main ensuite bathroom is going to be. So this is looking through our bedroom to that back wall. And you can see the planks. These planks are literally just lying. They're just resting on the beams. Some of them are attached, but most of them were just lying there. And what we had to do is we had to very carefully walk out onto these beams. We had to lay a plank so that we could get across from one beam to the next, approach the next set of planks, test to see whether they were attached or not. And if they weren't, just move them and gently just drop them down to the ground floor. So one of us always had to be on cat watch, and the other one would be dropping the planks onto the floor. And systematically we would work our way across all the way to the end, and we'd end up dropping all of those planks down to the ground. So this next shot, one of my favorites, I couldn't resist. Once we'd removed all the planks, we then had to lay joists along the top so that we had something to attach the OSB boards to. And I remember saying to John, let me do tree pose, let me do tree pose. And he was like, what? I said, hey, let me do tree pose in the middle of the barn. And it's actually just such a cool shot. Because, you know, you can see all the beautiful woodwork. And look, you can see all these beautiful A-frames. And the pigeonnier at the back, because the light's so great in this. And then there's just this crazy woman in the middle doing. Anyway, so here's another shot of that. So looking in that same direction, you can see now downstairs. And in fact, yeah, actually the floor's not done. So I've got the order wrong, haven't I? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Don't tell anyone. Because these are actually the installation pads to go underneath the floor downstairs. So we must have done the upstairs earlier. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So here you can just see all the beams. Here we've got a ladder so that we can climb up in the middle. But we've removed all the planks. And now what we have to do is install the joists. So it's just more timber that's laid this way across so that we can lay the OSB board on top. We couldn't lay the OSB board directly on top of the beams because nothing was even, nothing was level. And these joists went some way to making it at least a little bit more level. It's also worked out nicely because from below, because you've got the beam sitting like this, let me just show you, and then you've got the joists sitting on top like that, you can feed cables through in between the joists because all the wiring that's come from the entire house goes through the kitchen ceiling, because at the end here is where the electricity consumer unit is. So all the wires have to come down here. So it was also a good idea to allow space for the wires to travel so that they're ultimately hidden. And there we have the first boards. I also remember that was so exciting to actually be able to stand. You can just see here the joists is just literally 2 boards. And we have another photo the other way around of me taking a photo of John on the other side. Just to be able to stand up there, because all the times we'd been up there before, we'd have to be very careful treading on the beams or walking across the plank from beam to beam, and everything was always very, very carefully done. Now we had a floor. We could just walk on the floor, and it was just such a phenomenal feeling. Such a phenomenal feeling. So we had to attach the OSB board to the joists, and if I remember correctly, we screwed and nailed them in. We weren't taking any chances. So this is me doing some hammering. Excuse me. So that's almost at the end now. There's the pigeonnier again, and we're almost at the end of that top floor. So this is the ensuite bathroom at the end. So I remember when we finished that one wing upstairs, we were able to walk all the way to the end and walk back again. And I just kept going backwards and forwards because we'd never been able to walk so freely up there before. And it was just so exciting. You can also see in the shot, you know, the roof's done. All the boarding now you can see in between the beams. You see the boarding. So exciting. Then we had to do the other side. So this now is me standing in my office, and literally this is me standing probably just in front of where that window is now. Just to give you some idea of how things have changed. Because directly behind me there is where this little window is gone. And this here is this window that I keep pointing to here. But again, you can see the beams, they're just lying there. They're just resting there. And I've just noticed I've got bloody flip-flops on. What on earth was I thinking? I have got proper construction boots, but clearly I wasn't wearing them in this photo. So yeah, so once we'd finished the one wing, we had to come and do this wing, and this wing was my office and John's office. So really, John's standing in his office taking a photograph of me here, because my office, yeah, my office is just where this beam starts here. So it's just kind of here is my door. It comes across here, and then it's John's office. So this part, if you remember from the very first video where I said that the barn originally started off just as a rectangular shape before it became an L-shape shape, this was the original part of that barn. So the beams here are not mechanically cut. You can see they're very rough and ready, and a lot of them still had bark on them, which is incredible. So there we have it. The board is going down. Here's my window again, and you can see the joists are going down. You can see downstairs into the living room, but the boards are slowly going across. And there they are, done. And again, that was just so exciting, being able to walk from that end. And when we were finished both wings, to be able to run from one end of the building right round and then right up to the other end and back again, and not worry about being careful about where you stepped with your feet because the beams or the planks or whatever, we had a floor, and that made such a difference. Once we had the floor upstairs, we were able to bring a load of our things and store them upstairs, and a lot of the renovation stuff could come upstairs so that we could start renovating. So one of the first rooms we did after downstairs was actually my office, because I was earning money and I needed to have, well, that was my excuse anyway, don't tell John. We needed to have an office, a working office. I do have another video, and in fact I will put a card up so that you can click on that. I have a video that I did just recently of my office, just a couple of weeks ago, and you can really see how lovely it looks. So that's that. I'm not sure what the next, I think the next section might be miscellaneous and ending off this part one summary, but I'll see you soon. So welcome back to the last section in this video, and if you've stuck with it this long, please let me know what you think about it so far. I wasn't sure quite how long it would be, and I know there will be more parts coming at a later stage, but I needed to start somewhere. So I hope that you've enjoyed it so far. So please give it a like, and if you think that there are friends out there who might enjoy our journey, please share the link and get them to subscribe so that they can stay up to date. So this last section is really just little tidbits, and also to tempt you to subscribe to the channel, because obviously I'll be posting more updates of what we've done since then. This photo is is quite an emotional one. We were in our caravan for 3.5 years, and it was very hard. It was very small. We lived in there, obviously the two of us, but at one stage with 6 cats. And it was very challenging, but I have such fond memories of that caravan, how we made things work in such a small space, and how we got on, how we lived, and how we survived, and how we courageously got through every day despite having a severe lack of creature comforts. But we were just so grateful to be out in the middle of this beautiful countryside, not 20 meters from our dream home, with each other. And bearing in mind, we got married a couple of years ago, despite living in close quarters with 6 cats and having to go to the toilet in the garden for 2 months. And I remember we sold the caravan, and a lot of people said, oh, I bet you can't wait to see it go. Part of me was excited to see it go, because the fact that it was going meant that we were now living in the house. But I also felt very sad, because we'd kind of bonded with the caravan. You know, we'd been through so much together. So the day that came when we had to dismantle everything and prepare it for sale. In fact, I think it was a few days, because what this photograph here is of John actually dismantling the. Remember, I said that we'd installed a sort of like a platform and put the awning ground sheet over the top of it. And we recovered all the wooden beams from that structure and the OSB board on top to recycle, because you know we recycle everything. And here you can really see the polystyrene that we'd covered the caravan with to try and insulate it a bit more, which we've also reused in various places in the house. But yeah, it was an emotional few days. Excuse me. So here is just a reminder of what that downstairs wing looked like when we first moved in. And bearing in mind we've had the floor poured, we've got doors and windows now, we've got an upstairs. So the next thing was to start building this is the utility room at the back here, the pantry, the entrance hall, and the downstairs bathroom, but we needed partition walls for that. So there they are. So this is now standing right at the back in the utility room. So I'm in the utility room here. This next area is the pantry. And this area here at the end is the kitchen. And you can just catch a glimpse here in the pantry of shelves. And John built these amazing shelves. And going from the caravan where we had very limited space, and when we moved out the caravan, I mean, I found bags of sugar with my t-shirts, and you know, the baked beans were with the cat food, and you know, there was bags of rice under the sink, and you know, we just had such chaotic storage space in the caravan. And to have a pantry where you could put, you know, your rice there and your sugar there and your tins there and the cat food down there, it was such a luxury. I can't even begin to tell you. To be able to go in and see where things were was just such a treat. It really, really was such a treat. So this is looking now through to the kitchen. Now, if we walk through and we go stand at this doorway, which is the doorway into the library, and we look back, that's now what you see. So this is exactly the same view as that. Incredible. That's the front door. This is the kitchen patio door. Kitchen patio door, you can just see the light coming through it here. You can't see the front door because we've built the entrance hall. Here's the pantry. You can see the shelves that you saw just in the previous shot. And just through there, you can see the utility room. There's the washing machine and the hot water boiler. I've since bought a cooker, so the cooker sits there. Incredible. So once we had something here, we realized that we could sit and have a meal in our kitchen. And this was our first meal. It was breakfast. It was cornflakes and fresh figs. An incredibly emotional day. Incredibly emotional. To be able to sit in our house on a solid floor and eat off a table. And bearing in mind, we've been living in the caravan. We've been eating off our laps. We've been eating off lap trays. To sit at a table. It's just, you know, the small, they might seem like small things, but to us, they were just so massive. And we started just putting in random furniture. Excuse me. Random furniture. Here's an old plastic table from outside This was the plastic table that lived in the awning that used to have the dishes on when John washed up. The drying rack would be here. And now they've got a little wooden crate with my spices, and we've got the cooker. We've got this old unit which we bought from a second-hand shop which lived in the awning with the caravan for years, and an old bureau that somebody gave us. And it's just, this was luxury to me, standing in a kitchen. It just felt so exciting to have pots on the stove and all my spices out, and I could just walk through to the pantry and there'd be tins of food and I could get the rice from there, and it was just such a treat. It was like playing house, but it was real. Just so exciting. So exciting. And even when we look at the photos, just last night we were looking through all the photos, and sometimes you sit and you think, my God, how did we do that? How did we do that? Anyway, so next exciting thing, obviously, is we tiled the floors. So you can see here, obviously it's not tiled. Let me show you this photo because it's the same view. The floor is still that concrete floor that you saw laid. But now we're tiling the floor. And we got the tiles really cheap from somebody who traveled to Spain, bought a load of tiles, brought them back, and then realized actually they were way too dark for their requirements, and they were selling them. So we bought the lot and we got them for a really, really good price. And I think they're beautiful. They look so, so perfect for this barn. So now you can see through the house. So you can see here on the left, you can see through to the bathroom door. This is the downstairs bathroom, and the light that's coming through there is from the front door. Here you can see into the pantry and beyond into the utility room. There's the hot water boiler again. But now there's a tiled floor. How exciting is that? How exciting is that? So the next exciting thing that happened after we tiled the floor is, this was when we moved out of the caravan. We set up our bed. And we lived in this setup for another, I think, 2.5 years. And that's why I joked earlier on about having a door to close off the upstairs from the downstairs, because then you don't have a wet cat coming in and standing on your pillow. I sleep here on this side of the bed. And here's the kitchen patio doors, and there was a cat flap that John installed in the patio doors. And it would be chucking it down with rain, and they'd run through all the mud and through the rain. They would come through the cat flap. They would jump onto my bedside table and then onto my pillow. And then they would either wash, or they would shake, or they would want to climb into bed with me. I love my cats. I love my cats. But a cold, wet, muddy cat on my freshly laundered linen, just, I have no words. I have no words. And as soon as we finished the upstairs bedroom, we moved upstairs, and we could have a door that closed, and that room stays clean. And the cats are now downstairs. They have 102,000 beds that they can sleep on in this room, but they don't have the bed, and I now have clean linen. Incredible. So we used this setup for 2.5, nearly 3 years. We slept in. It's like a bed sit. Luxury after the caravan, though. And when we moved out of the caravan, and we started tiling, this is the downstairs bathroom. We bought this shower cubicle, and this was the area where in a previous video I showed you had the OSB board box, and I said there was a toilet in there because when we had the septic tank installed, John installed a toilet as quickly as possible so that we had a little toilet cubicle. This is that same area, but now the shower sits in the corner and the toilet is plumbed in here. I cannot explain to you, when we lived in the caravan, the water pump and the heater for the water in the shower, it didn't work. And what we had to do is we had to boil water. Before we had electricity, we had to boil water on the gas cooker. And we had to pour it in a bucket, which we then had to fill from the tap outside with cold water. And we'd have to go sit inside the shower cubicle with that bucket and a cup. And we'd have to shower with that bucket of water. And we did that for 3.5 years. And when I look back at it now, I just think, my God, how did we do that? When we were cleaning all those tiles, when we were absolutely filthy, when we came in from the roof in midsummer when it was 37 degrees out the back, and John had to build a shelter for us to stand under while we were roofing because it was just so hot. We'd be sweaty, we'd be dusty, we'd be manky, and then we'd go into the caravan with our bucket for a shower. Oh, when we installed this was luxury. To stand under hot running water was luxury. I will never, ever, ever take that for granted again. Never, ever. Still to this day. And this isn't even our main bathroom. This is just the downstairs shower room. Ultimately, we will have an ensuite bathroom. That's not complete yet, but yeah. It's amazing the stuff we take for granted. One of the other things we've done since is build an outdoor patio. So you might recognize here, this is the first window that we installed, which you might have seen in the windows section. You can see here that the wall underneath it isn't built yet. It's just concrete blocks. Here's the kitchen patio door, which you also saw when we installed. But now we've put a patio out the front. That now since has, plants and a gazebo at the top and everything, so it has changed a lot. But this was also luxury. We were given the table and chairs from someone who had updated theirs, and we were able to just sit outside and have a coffee and just love our house. You can see here also the guttering. Remember I told you about the valley where the two parts of the barn meet, how we installed the valley, and we put the guttering in to drain into the trench that's dug, that was there when we arrived underneath the house. So the last thing I wanted to show you, and this is just a sneak preview, this is only part one. We've done a lot since these photos. These are really just the main things that happened probably in the first 3.5 years. We've been here 8 years now. So since this, we have done the walk-in wardrobe. This is a sneak preview of the walk-in wardrobe. We've done the walk-in wardrobe upstairs. We've completed my office. We've completed John's office. We've 65% completed the upstairs landing. We have completed the main bedroom, which looks beautiful, the biggest room we've renovated yet. We are currently finishing the living room downstairs. And we've also converted what I called the pig sheds downstairs into, I've got a frog in my throat, I'm sorry, into a wood store. And that involved taking the roof off, taking the top floor, taking the top floor of stones, and rebuilding the entire structure, putting a new roof on, giving it a concrete floor, putting doors in, window. So that took a lot of work as well. At the same time, all of this has been going on. We've had both of us some very, very heavy family things to deal with, and working. I have a full-time job. I have had for years now, so I haven't been able to help as much on the renovation as I have in the past. John does most of it on his own now, bless him. But he just has an endless supply of energy, and he just keeps going. So I hope you've enjoyed part 1, and I will most definitely do a part 2. Please comment below and let me know if you've enjoyed this video, what you think about it, what your favorite part is, and what you'd perhaps like to see in future videos. I will be doing regular updates because I'm also pulling a lot of information off. We had a Facebook page which hasn't been updated for a while, but I'm moving everything off onto YouTube and putting all the videos in playlists. So let me know what you think to that, and just say hi and tell me where you are in the world and what you think of our project. I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.